This is Janjo, and I'm building a deck, yeah! Hey everyone, this is Jesse from the Janjo Zone, and in this video we will be building an Umi Beatdown deck from the 2002 Yugi Kaiba format. That is the first kind of real format in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm really excited to bring it all to you. Also, this deck means a lot to me, which I will explain throughout the video. So definitely make sure you stick to the end. And at the end of the video, let me know what you think about this deck, what changes you would make, and what decks you'd like to see for future weeks. Now, if you aren't supporting the zone, definitely consider subscribing or sharing this video amongst your peers, or maybe even consider checking out my merch, my Patreon, or my TCG player affiliate link. So with that said, let's get started. Want to support Janjo? Get your name in videos or request content for the channel? Then check out my Patreon for exclusive perks, content, and stretch goals. Alright, so Umi Beatdown is a deck that you never really saw back in the day either. That's because this is a deck that I actually kind of made myself when I started getting to Yugi Kaiba format. The first couple decks I saw were, like Beatdown, Standard, Fiend Equip. When it came to Umi Beatdown, no one really played that. When it comes to field spells, Yami was sort of the only one people played as a sort of tech option, because the main cards you will be playing are cards like, well, Law Jin, Mystical Gene the Lamp, because he's your strongest normal summonable monster. So when you're running cards like Fiends and Spellcasters, that's the kind of stuff you want to run. But Yami kind of fell out of favor a bit due to it. Well, your opponent gets the advantage from it too. It's a field spell. If they summon their Summon Skull, well, then they get the boost, and then you're kind of set back a bit. So I had the idea of looking at other cards that could possibly work. And when it came to cards that could possibly work, well, Yumi was the one that came to mind. Because no one is running water monsters in this format. And the only one that's really viable with this deck is Great White with 1600 attack. So when you have Yumi on the field, Great White will get 1800 attack. Well, attack will go up to 18k. And your opponent's not going to get any benefit from Fish, Sea Serpent, Thunder. So this was the idea I had when I entered a tournament with it. And I won the first game. I lost the second one, and it's arguable if it was due to drawing. I think the information that I got from this deck is that it can work. Maybe not a top tier deck, but a fun rogue deck that I wouldn't call it bottom tier. I wouldn't go that far, because if you can get Umi with this on the field, then you just have another Law Jin. And that's pretty nutty. Now, it is possible to draw into Great White before Umi this has happened, but still, 16k isn't too bad. I mean, that's why a lot of people run Giant Soldier of Stone, because it has 13k attack with this 2000 defense, which means that you can put on some offensive pressure, which is good. Aquamador is not fit under this, unfortunately. Otherwise, I think this would be top tier if Aquamador was like a thunder monster, or Aqua. Yeah, Aquamador being an Aqua monster, crazy now, but no, it's a spellcaster. With Great White, you get 18k, and you can draw into another Umi, which is kind of a dead card. This is the kind of thing that you would have to side in more copies. My initial build, which I do showcase in, I believe, my first Yugi Kaiba deck video. You don't want to draw into too many, and your opponent's probably going to side in these spells if they have it, so you do want to side in at least a third one, I would argue. When it comes to like the main deck, I think 2 and 3 is the best ratio for this, so you don't overdraw into it. But if you do, and you don't mind losing, card destruction is a good card to just kind of replenish your hand if you need to. If you need to dump cards, it can work alongside Monster Reborn. And of course, we're playing the Power 5 cards, which is Reborn, Change of Heart, Hold, Greed, and Raigeki. So those are all fine and dandy. We are only playing 1 Summon Skull. You could run 2 if you wanted to, just the amount of cards I had in this. If there is a card you probably could cut, I would say would be like Reinforcements. I don't see this card as often as like the other traps, obviously depending on the deck. But you could cut like one of these out for a Summon Skull. When it comes to the other cards, fissures, we need that more destruction. Revealing Light can also help stall us if we need to take some time to get into our pieces, or just to flip monsters, or just to prevent the opponent from whatever it is, so we can be safe to summon or attack with Skull. There's a lot of things we can do with Swords Revealing the Light. It's definitely a key card here. Of course, we can only run 2 copies of that. I know this is Dueling Book, but we can actually run 2 copies of Card Destruction if we wanted. When it comes to the other traps, of course, Dark Hole and Wabaku are very good for protection and destruction, because the destruction is just so goddamn important. And when it comes to other monsters, of course, these are kind of more like if your standard cards. Like, this build isn't anything like too crazy. The main thing is that Yumi and Great White. So, you know, don't expect like a super pure, like, soul exchangey kind of deck. The last monster, if you remembered, I said destruction is important, and of course Maneater Bug is very important. So, like, as you can see, this deck isn't anything too super crazy, but it does have a unique idea going into it that maybe other decks doesn't. It's a bit more standard than, let's say, your Fiend Equip or your Metal Dragon Turbo deck, but it does have its own uniqueness. There are other 1600 attack decks, there are other field decks now. I felt like when I shared this deck, it really kind of opened the floodgates, which is good. Because I love to see creativity with this format and more people play it. Of course, you know, you can check out my Discord and we can talk more about that kind of stuff. But it's great to see more variety in this deck, or in this format, because this is a format that has a very limited card pool, but you can still have a lot of fun with the deck building, as I think the self-titled Umi Beatdown has sort of created. I'm trying to remember my initial build. My initial build, I don't think I ran Skull. Stone was swapped with Wall of Illusion. I had a 3rd Reinforcements. I had a 3rd Yumi. I think I had 1 Swords and no Card Destruction. I think those were like the main differences with the deck. So it's definitely different from my initial build, and that initial build from that video was my very first build for the deck, for that tournament that I entered in. This is my most recent one that I think will be mine moving forward. Of course, as the meta kind of shifts, things could change, but generally I like it. You know, Reinforcements, it's still good. You know, if you need to use it for certain cards, you can use it for Stone or Great White if you need to, or whatever you need it for. But this is definitely the way to go. So let me know what you think about this deck. If you ever played the Yugi Kaiba format, let me know what kind of decks you played, and if you'd like to see more videos like this one. And if you want to request a deck profile, definitely check out my Patreon for further information. And of course, until I see you all next time, have a wonderful day.
My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, Kaiba.